rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Right off the top, I got to say happy birthday to the United States Army. 250 years ago, they were formed in 1775. This is the America's premier fighting force. We didn't even have a Navy, honestly, before the Army. The Army is the first. So there you go. Anyway, 250 years ago. Also, today, it's Flag Day. So normally I would, have my flag up back there, but because it's the United States Navy, the United States Army, whoo, that's bad. United States Army, birthday. So I flew my Army flag. I flew my Army flag up there. And so, yeah. I've got it on the flagpole right now. I've also got all my flags out, of course, for Flag Day as well. And, of course, just as a side note, because it is actually just a side note, not that I want to disrespect the man, but let's be honest, the 250th birthday is a lot more important than his birthday, but it's the 79th birthday of the President of the United States. So, there you go. And that takes, believe it or not, that takes second fiddle. I'm sorry, but everybody was, all of these leftist lunatic morons were sitting there talking about the parade being a thing for his birthday. No, it was literally, and I watched, well, I won't say the entire thing, but I watched probably a good half, maybe. And it was entirely, and I'm talking about the parade. I probably watched maybe the last half of it. I'm just guessing because I don't know what time it started. I didn't start watching it until around 3 p.m. my time. So anyway, but the parade was 100% entirely about the Army. The entire thing was about the Army. Not one mention, realistically, outside of a couple people. A couple of the superstars that showed up to, sing and everything did say happy birthday to the president, but the entire thing was literally surrounding the 250th birthday of the Army. President Trump received a flag from the premier parachuting organization known as the Golden Knights. And they brought it down, had it fly over the Capitol as they were parachuting in, and they parachuted in and gave him the American flag that was flying when they dropped out of their drop zone. So, and yeah, 3 Chevy, I don't think he did. I'm fairly certain that he didn't. So anyway, okay, so Bonnie, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me what part of the Army did not look toward Donald Trump when they passed? If you're talking about the very front line, okay, meaning the line, the column, I'm going to call it the column of soldiers that was the closest to him, you don't. There it is. I'm going to clarify this. I'm going to classify this, and I'm going to quantify this. The way that when you are marching past, okay, when you are marching past the commander-in-chief or a general or whatever, the first line of people closest to that individual do not change their eye line. They march forward. It is the rest of the troops that do the salute. Okay? And it's not, again, if it's the people who were in the line closest to him, They are not allowed to. They march straight forward, and the reason being is because they keep the column straight. They keep everything straight and in line, and it's the rest of the group that will salute, that will turn their head and salute for that. So anyway, if they didn't, if none of them, if what you're saying is that other people were not saluting him, then yeah, that's a problem. And if they're on camera, I would imagine UCMJ charges should be headed their way, because regardless of how you politically feel about the president of the United States, he is your commander in chief, and you should be rendering correct and proper respect for him in the office, regardless of what you think. I had to salute, who was it? Was it, no, Clinton. Yeah, Clinton was in the 90s. So yeah, Clinton, I had to salute Clinton. So if they didn't, their commanders should be freaking reaming them a new asshole, because that's not what you do. You are supposed to be, when you put on that uniform, you are supposed to be completely apolitical. That is part of the requirements. You can't even answer questions about politics or anything else. So yeah, anyway. All right, let's go ahead and move on. But before I get into our standard setup, I would like to play the United States Army song in celebration of the 250th birthday of the United States Army. And I am going to go ahead and disappear from webcam and we'll go from there. So. I didn't want that to go happen, but anyway, there you go. There you go. Happy birthday, Army. Of course, former Army right here. My stepfather and I both served. 2 generations of the family did that. And yeah, proud to have done it. To be honest, I'm not quite sure I would necessarily do it again if I had the choice, but I would definitely go back in. And by the way, too, it was really cool. I don't know if anybody saw this, but it was part of the parade. They had a graduating class from somewhere. Okay. A graduating class from somewhere that they were all standing there, and they took the oath of office being given by the president. How cool is that? I mean, to stand there and understand, you got to remember, you're putting up your hand, and you're basically saying, I solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to same, that I will obey the the orders of the officers appointed over me and the President of the United States, in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. I mean, I get chills when there's special things like that going on. That was amazing. And honestly, that should be something that those members remember. Hang on, I gotta move my camera here, because it misinterpreted my putting up my hand as a reason. So there we go. All right. So anyway, as I was saying, wow. I mean, they were just standing there, and it was wow. Also now, because this is amazing. Thank you very much. None Report has rated our stream over on Rumble. So if you are from the None Report, welcome. I do appreciate this. This is fantastic. I thank you for coming on by, and yeah, I I'm honored to have you here. Hopefully you'll stick around and you'll enjoy the program and maybe pick it up as part of your regular listening pleasure. But anyway, all right. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off in our normal fashion. Oh, you know what? Let me check. I got to check something really quick here. I got to see. Did I switch the pledge over from yesterday? No, I did not. So here we are. Okay. We will go ahead and do this. All right. So tonight on tap is My News. My News from Rumble Land is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat, if you're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and join in with My News as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, My News, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record it, reciting it, performing it, however you want to do it, in your style. And then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And of course, tonight is Saturday, so I have my requisite drink. Tonight is Knob Creek. Knob Creek, number 9, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey that is in the glass. And in honor of our president's 79th birthday, I am putting it in the Trump 2024 glass. And there is the Stones in there, like it always is. So, because it takes stones to drink with whiskey. So there you go. Oh, that's some good stuff. Happy birthday, United States Army, and, of course, President Donald John Trump. All right. So, next thing on the docket is, of course, our, headline sponsor, which is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, all you need to do is go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this thing out. Got an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here, folks. It is stitched all the way through the pages and the leather. It's got a 100-year warranty against all against material and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem, you can send this back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. My Rumble Whiskey Warrior P1s know that this has got sexy rounded corners, and it is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will get you your Civics badge in Scouts. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. And also, I encourage you to check out the rest of the U.S. Constitution, the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. They have a fantastic selection of all kinds of stuff there. And of course, you can, if you go to constitution.americanperspective.online, you can pick yours up and support the show. So there you go. All right. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off with our first segment, our very first segment. Hey, just none report, folks. You're in for a treat. This is a segment that my Whiskey Warrior P1s absolutely love, and that is On This Day in American History. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full of all kinds of factoids. Look at that, we're almost halfway through. Chock full of all kinds of factoids about our wonderful country that we call home. And of course, today, being June 14th, it is Flag Day. Be sure to fly your flag today. June 14th is Flag Day. We celebrate the birthday of the Stars and Stripes. On June 14th, 1777, during the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress in Philadelphia adopted the Stars and Stripes as the official national flag. Resolved that the flag of the 13 United States be 13 stripes alternating red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white, on a blue field, representing a new constellation. Congress gave no further instructions as to how exactly what the flag should look like, such as its dimensions, nor how the stars should be arranged. Consequently, early U.S. flags did not all look alike. Some flags had stars with 6 points, others with 8. Some flag makers sewed the stars in a row on the blue field, others in a circle or scattered without an organized pattern. The first official widespread observance of the flag's birthday came on June 14, 1877, when the flag was 100 years old. Over the next several years, many schools, veterans groups, and patriotic societies turned the day into a yearly celebration. Mayors and governors began to issue proclamations calling for parades and patriotic events on June 14th. In 1916, President Woodrow Wilson established Flag Day as an annual national celebration. In 1949, Congress and President Truman officially made June 14th a permanent yearly observance. That, of course, is On This Day in American History. And, of course, as you all know, in 1775, on June 14th, the United States Army, which the logo is behind me, was officially formed. And I am a U.S. Army veteran. Not a combat vet. Don't claim to be a combat vet, but I am a veteran. So, there you go. All right. Oh, yeah. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but yeah, I've done a couple of what they're called the truck series, which basically is whenever the internet goes out at the studio here, I end up going and taking off to go and try and make sure that I can actually make a show, because I always try to make shows for as much as humanly possible. But anyway, all right. But thank you for noticing that. I do appreciate that. All right. So today, of course, the lunatic liberal left decided to make this into their quote-unquote No King's Day. And cities all around the country were bracing for large crowds at these anti-Trump No Kings demonstrations. Okay. Squish. Okay. I'll just call you Squish then. All right. And and anyway, I mean, even like for an example, Greg Abbott mobilized 5,000 troops, National Guard troops, to be prepared for what was going on or what was going to happen. And yeah, so all of these protests, they took over. They took over, sort of, kind of, not really. Because I'll be honest with you, I haven't really seen much of anything other than a few postings on on some of the social medias. I mean, many of them have been like taking photos and saying, "Oh yeah, look, we've got hundreds of thousands." Yeah, the actual official count that I've heard so far, the highest count that I've heard so far is something like 7.2 or 7.5 million. And that includes not only the United States, but also around the world. Well, let me just do a short bit of math. And actually, Nana of JJS over on Rumble, she needs to, check my math here. But the last time I believe the census was taken, we had a little over 330 million 330 million citizens or people within this country. And 10% would make that 33 million. And 5% of that would be somewhere around the realm of like 15 to 17 million. And so if you're talking about 7 million people, you're talking about less than 2% of the population. Again, I'm going to bow down to my math whiz, Nana, who it basically is, my math whiz. She's going to tell me whether or not 7 million people comprises somewhere in the realm of less than 2% of the entire population. So no offense, guys, but yeah, even the Washington Post posted that thousands of Americans, and believe me, they started getting critical about that. People like it was just, these leftists just all jumped on all of that, and they were just like, okay, yeah. But here's the thing: is that regardless of what it is, these No King protests are basically they were essentially attended by morons, and believe me, that is all that the mainstream media and the left. I mean, that's all I've seen from all of the outlets and everything is all of these thousands of demonstrations that have happened. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. You guys go ahead. It's not what the day is for. Oh, and the other protest thing that didn't really take traction also was this was going to be like Obama Day or something. Yeah, Obama Day. Sure, I've seen a few people who are like, post everything, this is on X, post everything, June 14th is Obama Day. Yeah, that didn't happen. Oh, these people, they just, oh God, they whatever. So anyway, they were obviously talking about and trying to counteract. Oh, well, see, I was, yeah, okay. So it ended up being 0.21, what is it? 0.021. Anyway, less than 2%, I guess, of the population or whatever. But anyway, yeah, they just, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Now, the protests, of course, were being supported by Walmart heiress Christy Walton, which, of course, everybody was, they were all excited about that. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, just what a ridiculous thing. Well, one thing that did happen today, and I am going to take the tone of the show into more of a somber attitude. Unfortunately, there was a assassination and an attempted assassination of a couple of Minnesota representatives and their spouses that were taken today. And currently, there is a massive manhunt for the suspect who perpetrated these nasty crimes. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there to everybody. I want you to know this, take note of this. Violence in the cause or in the name of political violence or whatever, violence by itself is not accepted here, okay? Violence itself is not accepted anywhere unless there is literally no choice. However, the sad thing about this is that there are lunatic people out there, and honestly, they can be on both sides of the political sphere. But there's people who will take lunacy to a whole new level. And unfortunately, that seems to be what has happened here with this guy. So, he apparently, from our early reports, and I'm going to be honest with you, I want to take the Dan Bongino 72-hour rule before I start talking about a whole bunch of stuff that may or may not be true, okay? But here's the thing. Apparently what this person did is he is suspected to have, or he's alleged to have dressed as a police officer wearing black body armor over a blue shirt and blue pants. He is basically, he came up, he was in a SUV that had been tricked out with lights, potentially even a siren, but it basically had been modified to look like a police vehicle. And he came up to the homes, both homes, well, at least the one home that we know of. And he came up to the home and he essentially goes in and shoots the husband and wife team. Then he flees that scene and goes to another scene or another location of another state lawmaker and their husband as well. So State Representative Melissa Hortman, who is a member of the Democrat Farmer Labor Party, the DFL, and her husband, Mark Hortman, were fatally shot by this suspect impersonating a police officer. In a related shooting, another senator, Senator John Hoffman, and his wife, Yvette, were also shot. Now, those two are expected to survive and currently are out of surgery at the last report that I have here. The incidences unfolded around 2 a.m. this morning. Now, the suspect apparently exchanged gunfire with responding police, but was able to flee the scene and is still at large. Okay. So, there has been some original, and by the way, too, there was a shelter-in-place order that was put out, issued within a 3-mile radius of what's called Edinburgh Golf Course. And these folks, unfortunately, obviously they were Democrats, and apparently, at least initial reports came in, and it's kind of unclear now because there have been a couple of other reports that have kind of disputed this claim. But the claim was that this was politically motivated because both of these individuals voted, or at least I'm sorry, I misspoke. One of these individuals voted with Republicans against some illegal immigration, getting state medical or health assistance or something. And so anyway, there was some suggestion that maybe this was a politicized attack. Initial reports, and I'm only going off of initial reports, but initial reports are that the suspect, and of course we don't name suspects here, but the suspect, and we also don't name perpetrators, period, but the suspect apparently was appointed at one point by Tim Walz to be a part of some type of board. And in this particular situation, he apparently was praised by Tim Walz for his integrity and those kinds of things. Again, keep in mind, anything like this, seriously, we don't really know 100% what their motivations are. And to be honest with you, if he is not caught alive, you will probably never know. However, there is some indications that this gentleman might have had some extremist leanings. He apparently, in the car that he had stormed one of the houses with, reportedly had a bunch of No Kings flyers, indicating that he might be a leftist kind of individual. However, there's also a report that back in 2022, he registered as a Republican. Now, I'm going to give you caution in terms of somebody registering as a Republican, because as you well know, the shooter in Butler, Pennsylvania was registered as a Republican and did so because of the fact that he was attempting to stop the selection of a Republican there. Now, reports are also coming in that they found some sort of a hit list with roughly 70 people on it, one of them being Tim Walz himself, and several other political people on this hit list. And so there seems to be, again, some kind of political motivation here. However, it's not 100% clear as to all of this. But again, keep in mind that that Hortman, who is the one who died, faced intense criticism for voting to cut access to state health benefits for illegal immigrants in Minnesota. Now, this gentleman, the suspect, is apparently has a work history of private security, also has a history of working with immigrant, especially people from Africa, and doing private security over there, as well as a couple other things, things of that kind of nature. And so, yeah. Anyway, the GOP made it clear on this vote that they would not be satisfied without the Minnesota Care repeal, which is what they repealed. And she, excuse me, Hortman was the only Democrat to side with Republicans and provided the Republicans with the carrying vote. Now, Walz has already said that he intends to sign the measure when it lands on his desk, which brings up the fact that Walz's name is on that 70-person list. Okay. It's like, yeah. So again, just take this with a dose of caution. We don't know what side he was on. We do know he obviously was mentally deranged, because that's the way things roll. And so jumping to conclusions about saying whether or not he was left or right, indications are kind of showing that he had left leaning. But again, until the facts, all of the facts come out with regards to this, I think we need to take the pause, and relax a little bit with regards to this. So if you are in the Minnesota area, okay, they are looking for him. He is a white male, brown hair. He was wearing black body armor over a blue shirt and blue pants, may misrepresent himself as law enforcement. They also called him 220 pounds, and 6'1", but I looked at some of the pictures, and I don't know if he's 220 pounds. But anyway, so now immediately, of course, the leftist online and even the right, both of the political parties, of course, jumped to try and blame the other as quick as possible. I I'm just going to hold my tongue a little bit in terms of all of this. But yeah. So this guy reportedly was he and his wife ran a Praetorian Guard security services. And he was also twice appointed to posts by Democratic governors, serving on the Workforce Development Council in 2016 under then Governor Mark Dayton, and appointed by Walz in 2019 to serve a 4-year stint on the Workforce Development Board. So he obviously is connected to Walz with regards to this. And Walz, of course, in his early morning remarks, didn't reveal that the suspect was his own appointee, probably trying to make sure that he, kept some of this at least under wraps. But anyway, so the governor's office, meaning Governor Walz, later stated that the 60-person board that this individual served on was unpaid and bipartisan. However, the 2019 document shows that Walz signed off on his appointment because of the special trust and confidence I have in your integrity, judgment, and ability. That doesn't sound like somebody who was just signing off on a, thing. So, it's really sad that we have become a country where political violence, regardless of what form it actually takes, seems to be the status quo now. That you can go and you can disrupt things, you can disrupt meetings, you can act like an ass, you can even go so far all the way down to the point of where you are taking somebody else's life for political gain. And I'm sorry. Actually, let me rephrase that. I'm not sorry about this statement, but the vast majority of political violence, regardless of what the mainstream media tries to tell you, resides with the political left. It resides with the leftists. And so anyway, apparently the suspect also wrote an impassioned post on LinkedIn urging many of his followers to vote in the last election the election in 2019 to 2020, but he did not choose a candidate or a party. So again, this is kind of belying maybe the potential that he either was trying to cover up his political affiliation, or he maybe at that time literally didn't have one. But as I said again, he appeared to last register to vote in 2022 as a Republican. So anyway, our here on the American Perspective podcast, I basically can tell you that our hearts and prayers go out to the families of those victims. I do know that the couple that was killed does have young children or younger children, and they will be essentially devastated by this. It really doesn't matter, honestly, but anyway. All right. So speaking of another moron, we all know about Alex Padilla, the senator who decided to open up his mouth, insert his foot, and perform what is essentially described as an aggressive posture toward a target of, death threats and everything else, because he felt like that would be a, classy way to make his point known. And I'm being very facetious here when I say this. But anyway, after the videos have come out, the left obviously is taking the very heavily edited clipped version and trying to say, oh, he announced himself. Well, for those of you who haven't seen the actual full unedited video from the start of the presser, he actually doesn't announce himself until he is like pushed halfway out the room and is essentially resisting the movements of the Secret Service and the officers that are there. I've showed it last night on this program, so you can see it. You can go back and watch the episode. You can see I tried to put in two separate angles, and it clearly shows that this guy was just a complete moron and decided to push things out. Well, when you have a platform such as what Stephen A. Smith has, okay, you have to at least, again, you don't necessarily have to trust these guys like Stephen A. Smith, Bill Maher, any of these folks. You don't have to trust them and think that, hey, maybe they've actually switched sides, because let's be real, they really haven't. But when they hit the nail on the head for us, okay, then we've got to give them props for this. And so over here, and sorry, I got to get this up. Here is a video. I'm going to let it play, and we'll see what Stephen A. Smith has to say about this whole situation.
Here you have this Senator, Alex Padilla. Can Kristi Noem speak? Could you have waited till she finished to ask your questions? To shout your questions? You are a senator, right? You couldn't wait? So that was just you out of control because you were just losing it up. You, a United States Senator, couldn't compose yourself and let the head of Homeland Security finish her thoughts before you asked the question. Couldn't do that, huh? Couldn't do it, huh?
He's got a point. He absolutely has a point. I mean, again, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But that being said, that's really what this whole thing comes about. I mean, he claims, he is a U.S. senator. Let's be honest. He's a U.S. senator from California. One of two. Shifty Schiff is the other one. Moron. Censured for lying by his own peers. But I digress. The point is here that as a U.S. senator, you should have more decorum. You should have more smarts, intelligence, tact. Storming into what is essentially a press conference, not necessarily a question and answer session, but a press conference. You would think that he would have at least a little bit more smarts, political smarts when it comes to this. Provided that he didn't do it because of the fact that he is one of two senators from California, and Shifty Schiff obviously is very well known. Schiff is obviously very well known. And this guy, I didn't even know he existed. To be honest with you, many people don't even know who their representatives are. Even some people who are like really politically savvy, let's say, even they don't necessarily know what their representatives or who their representatives are. The only reason I know mine is because of the fact that, well, I'm somewhat politically savvy. But anyway. And the left, by the way, all they've been doing is they've been talking about how Padilla was only going to ask a question. Yeah. Watch the video. I'm just going to tell you. Watch the video. And, yeah, you'll see. But, when it comes to respect, the left especially has none. Now, I haven't said anything about this because honestly, there have been other things that have come up and on my mind, but this really kind of chaps my hide. See, one of the things that these leftist lunatic morons seem to miss is that there are hard-working Americans who need to get to places. Let's not even just Let's not even talk about when they do these protests and they block these roads and they block these highways and stuff. Let's not talk about the disruption to things like emergency services that come into play. Because yes, that's a big problem. And these people should be taken into custody and arrested and so on and so forth for those kinds of things. But when you have in earnest a person of color, one of the categories of people that these leftists appear to care about, or at least purport that they care about, they actually don't. We know they don't. They don't give a shit. But they purport to care about the, well, you can actually see their true colors show through. So this here is a video. There's two of the protesters who appear to be white. I'm not going to necessarily say that I know their ethnic background, but they are speaking to a woman who apparently is asking the protesters to move out of the road so that she can actually go to work to be able to provide for her child. And by the way, this young lady happens to be, or appear to be, a person of color. Let's take a listen.
But I have a kid. If I don't, and these people are having their children taken and their parents. What about my kids? I need their jobs.
Look at this.
Then what happens to my kids? I can't help you. But you can if you could just move out the way.
You're not going to.
How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do y'all as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
So for those of you who listen on the audio portion of the program later, this gentleman, and I'm using that term very loosely, he's probably, I don't know, about 6 foot. And he's got a man bun. And he's white. And he basically said, as you heard him in that clip, he basically said, "Oh, she has to go to work. Oh." Yeah. You know, again, I'm just going to point this out. Look, folks, if you really have a cause that you are attempting to try and get people to rally around, blocking them from their day-to-day operations and the things that they need, it isn't really a winning strategy. Let's just put it that way. Oh, and by the way, if you look at the image that's in the video frame that it finished, you can see there's a Palestinian flag in the background. What the hell does Palestinian flag have to do with the no ICE protest? Because that's what this protest actually was. It was a no ICE protest. Yeah. So, again, if you're really trying to get somebody on your side, I don't think blocking them in traffic or whatever is really a big. That's not going to be something that's going to necessarily bring me to your side. You want to bring me to your side? Bring me some intelligent facts, logic, reason, some, just give me something that is going to motivate me, not necessarily blocking me from doing the stuff that I need to do and when I need to do it. So, anyway. Oh, these people, they're just nuts. They really are. And I don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but anyway. All right, before I get to my next story, let me go ahead and let me go ahead and do this. Let's talk about True Social really quick here, provided that this thing loads for me. Yes. So let's talk about True Social. Are you on True Social yet? I'm on True Social. You can find my there they are, right there, right here in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, all of my socials that show up there. That one's the longest, of course. That one's Facebook. But yeah, you can also see like True Social. I'm on Gab. I'm on X and all of that. But If you are looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, of course, then check out True Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories, commentary from the top media figures, and if you want to see Trump's legendary True Social posts, then get on True Social today. Join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join True Social. And I believe you have to go to truesocial.com to sign up. So yeah, head on over and join True Social if you're not there yet. You really should. All right. Well, I don't know if anybody's seen this running around on the social media outlets, speaking of social media, but apparently there was a story that was running around. Now, this one in particular ended up on Facebook, but then, of course, obviously got shared everywhere else. And, yeah, it just goes to you got to make sure that you trust your sources file. But apparently this post, it was a very emotional post. Now, keep in mind, the left loves to use emotions to get you to play, to get you to get involved. Because again, if all you do is look at their proposed ideological items and points, you're not going to, if you look at them logically with reason and facts, yeah, you're not going to join in. But everything is about emotion to the left. They've got to play to your emotions to get you to join in, to get you to get on their side, because all of their arguments, for the vast majority, are emotional arguments. Well, anyway, this guy, whoever this guy is, he posted a claim that ICE had raided a high school graduation and taken away some kids' parents. Now, what followed, of course, was a bunch of people who were sitting there saying very stern things about the Trump administration and the people who support ICE operations. Well, it turns out that claim, which really made the rounds, especially last weekend, was false. Yeah, it was false. So this guy apparently was like, I can't handle this, y'all. He's wiping tears from his cheeks. He's saying all of a sudden a bunch of parents had to run out because ICE is there, the man said. This was in a June 6th Instagram post. He goes, parents had to run out because they don't have papers and they had to leave their kids because the kids do. Yeah. And of course, this whole rumor started running around on all of the social media outlets. And it turns out it's false. The video itself got about 7 million views. Probably convinced tens of thousands of people that ICE was a group of psychopathic monsters. According to this piece in Hot Air, but which is exactly what this thing was. But anyway, the Los Angeles Unified School District Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, I'm just horrible with pronouncing these. But anyway, he said that the rumors of the Grant Learning Academy raid was actually wrong. So Carvalho said during a June 6th press conference, we investigated it, and all the reports that came back were that no such event actually happened. Yeah. The school district also disputed the rumor on June 10th on Instagram, saying that, yeah, these claims are false. We have essentially a UC Smollett situation here. And by the way, here is the statement from the LAUSD, Region East. And it says, important clarification regarding immigration enforcement activity at culmination ceremonies. I guess that's what they call graduation ceremonies nowadays. They said, we are aware of recent rumors circulating on social media regarding immigration enforcement activity at the 5th grade culmination ceremony at Gratz Learning Academy for Young Scholars on June 6th of 2025. These claims are false. Yeah. Jeez. And apparently the guy who started it posted a follow-up video. Now, this is how stupid they actually are. Okay. This is, I mean, I kind of, look, I've been sort of halfway developing a couple of new segments, and I kind of want to put this guy into the morons segment. You know, you got the morons and then, of course, the FAFOs. But this one kind of falls into the morons segment because here is why I would put him in that segment, even though he's not quite officially there. I'll give him an honorable mention because apparently he went and posted a follow-up video on Instagram, and instead of apologizing about it, he got angry with the people that were fact-checking him. And he says, a lot of you can't seem to tell the difference between a real emotional response to information and a news report. He added, cheers do not wait for confirmation. Yeah. Sure. See, this is part of the problem that the left has. They sit there and they talk about everything that they talk about is all emotional. If you ever listen to any kind of leftist rant, it's all emotion. There's hardly any facts, any truth, any evidence within any of this. Okay? And so yeah, it's like these guys. So anyway, apparently he seemed to be arguing that it was fake, but that it was accurate because, you know, scary things are happening, even though this one didn't. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It just, yeah. Anyway. What a mess. What a mess. These people, I'm telling you, they're just going to continue on these rants and everything else. And it's just, I'm so done with them. All right. Well, for the first time in a while, I actually have something for my not very often used segment called Highlighting America. So let's check that out. All right. So on tonight's Highlighting America, there's this awesome piece in the Epic Times about a family that apparently has been making American flags for more than a century. Now, for any of you who are in Ohio, you might want to give this company a shout if you get a chance. So the National Flag Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, is owned by a family called the Schallers, Schallers. And they started making flags at this location in 1903. And this is truly a family business, folks. This is truly a family business because they have Cindy Schaller, who is one of the family, obviously, and she has a grandson named Arthur Schaller IV. He's 7 years old, and he actually dreams of taking over, joining the business, and joining his father at the National Flag Company. So what this young man, I'm going to call him, did is he had a word. He's got Art 2, work on the flag company. Do you think that will happen, Dad? And he's got it written in crayons. Oh my goodness. So, the Cincinnati firm specializes in custom, carefully stitched flags with American-sourced materials. They are the people bigger flag makers call when a client needs something exceptional. On June 6th, the company's president and Cindy's son, Artie Schaller III, showed Epoch Times around the production floor, a colorful galaxy of fabric and half-finished banners. Alongside the red, white, and blue, there were flags for a high school, the state of Colorado, and even the country of Sri Lanka. So, Artie 3 said that it's hard to find workers with the skills to make bespoke flags, but for those who can, variety is the spice of work life. He says something is always changing. Now, they've been making flags for, again, since 1903, and this time of year is their flag season. All right. So by that, they mean that June being the heart of flag season, because you have, and I don't really even think about this, but you have Memorial Day on May 26th-ish, Flag Day on June 14th, which is today, and finally we have the 4th of July, which is when Americans celebrate their independence. So Artie 3 expects demands will be particularly high this time of year on the 250th anniversary, this time next year, on the 250th anniversary of 1776. Let me explain something to you. I would love to get a flag that honors the 250th anniversary, because doing the math, I'm not going to make to the 300th, more than likely. And I don't think a lot of my audience will be able to either. But yeah. Anyway, RD3 apparently has taken over management from the company, or of the company, from his father, RD2, from over the past 3 years. And Cindy said that her son's commitment to the family legacy didn't come as any kind of a surprise. She said it was fairly clear from the beginning that he loved this company, and this is what he wanted to do and where he wanted to be. So before Art II, there was Art Sr., who became president of the firm in 1977. And then before that was Larry Schaller. So the first Schaller at the National Flag Company was George, was Art Sr.'s uncle. And he started off as a 12-year-old stock boy in 1903. George retired more than 7 decades later in 1976, the same year the United States turned 200. So there you go. Anyway, the company itself is already more than 3 decades old when the first Schaller came on board. The man named Frederick Spencer launched it in 1869 when it began as a printing business. Now, if you go to nationalflagcompany.com, or maybe it's not the whole thing, but if you try to find the National Flag Company, you do a search for the National Flag Company, they actually don't sell direct to the public. They point you to another company that does it. And yeah, there's also, as Squishy points out, there's also another one that I've been keeping my eye on, is Allegiance Flag Supply also as well. And Allegiance Flag Supply is another U.S. made flags, and they make some pretty high quality stuff too. I would love to have Allegiance Flag as a sponsor of this program. And in fact, I reached out to them to try and get a interview, and they ignored me. So, didn't get anything back. So, but I would love to have Allegiance Flag as a sponsor of this program. And maybe someday, if I get enough people, we'll go ahead and do that. But, yeah, I love the American made folks. And, especially the longtime American folks that are out there. All right. There we go. All right. Let me take a breath for a second. And let's go ahead and talk about the moron. Yep, he's a moron. Hey, look, just because of the fact that you have a college degree, regardless of what level it is, whether it is a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD. None of that means that you can't be a moron. And this guy definitely is a moron. Well, this guy is Judge, and unfortunately, he is actually related to a former Supreme Court judge. But Judge Charles Breyer tried to block the Commander-in-Chief's control of the National Guard. Yeah, that's right. If you recall, Gavin Newsom tried to sue the Trump administration for taking control of the California National Guard and deploying them in LA. And this guy, I got to tell you, these people are just they're so damn dumb. Anyway, he goes ahead and decides or tries to block and tell Trump that he has to give it back to, gives back to the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Well, that order lasted for a very short period of time because the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, now let's be honest, again, the Ninth Circuit Court is one of the most overturned courts of appeals in this country. I think they still hold that designation. They actually got it right because, again, like I said, a clock can be right twice, a broken clock can be right twice a day. But they slapped him back and said, yeah, that's a gross overreach. You don't have that ability. You can't tell him to turn the control back over. As I've told you guys before, and I've talked about this, the National Guard exists in a very interesting scenario. When they are deployed as part of what's known as Title 32, they are in control of the governor. When they are deployed as a Title 10, they are in control by the president. That's it. They were deployed under Title 10, United States Code, Section 12406. Because of that, they are under the control of the president. And by the way, the president can usurp the control of the governor anytime that he damn well pleases, because the National Guard at its core is for national defense. These people, they don't get it. They don't understand the way the laws actually work. Now, this guy, Charles Breyer, is the brother of former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. He was a Clinton nominee. He shares a common thread that's shared by a lot of these jurists that are issuing unconstitutional orders in the fact that he is apparently some sort of a race lecturer. He's a hardcore Democrat. Now, again, folks, look, Democrats sit there and say that, hey, we're the most inclusive. Yet the minute that you say that you're a Christian conservative, they're no longer inclusive anymore. They are not inclusive. They are anything but what they say they are. In fact, what I would say is look at a Democrat, any Democrat, and hold them in the highest esteem that you hold car salesmen or attorneys or any other kind of salesman, because that's about the level of integrity that you're going to get from a Democrat and either one of those other ones. And so, yeah. Anyway, so he apparently had some sort of a questionnaire or whatever. Breyer said that he worked on the transition team for the late Terrence Hallinan, who was a far left district attorney for San Francisco. So, yeah, I mean, there's no surprise that he goes ahead and just, says what he says, grasps at what is essentially something non-existent. Because, again, these guys, all of these judges are sitting there and they are talking. They're kind of like that one judge in Wisconsin who thinks that she can just allow and totally ignore federal immigration law and allow an immigrant loose and not take the consequences. Or this Padilla guy who did the exact same thing and basically ignore the consequences because they all believe that they are above the law. And yet they say that no one is above the law. Again, this is the hypocrisy that exists within the Democrat Party of today. They are all complete morons. Totally morons. So, anyway. Yeah. All right. Let's move to the international desk because this is really important. So the other day, Iran and Israel traded bombs. Now, normally this isn't any kind of a big thing. I mean, it happens all the time. But Israel in particular went and traded some bombs and did what was essentially a surgical strike. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Regardless of how you feel about the whole situation, all I got to tell you is this. Israel has perfected the ability to strike specific targets with minimal casualties, minimal civilian casualties. They have perfected that art. They are very, very good at what they do with all of this. So anyway, they went and they struck the heart of Iran's nuclear program. They struck and killed several commanders of different various military forces in Iran, which really has kind of, let's just say it's more than likely hurt Iran. But that being said, Iran responded and they fired some back. Now, I mentioned this last night about the whole situation, but now we have an actual update over the total loss and casualties and so on and so forth. This is in Breitbart. Fewer than 100 missiles got sent, and there was only 40 injured. Not like 40 is a minuscule number, because it's not. But 40 were only injured in Israel. So most of the missiles that were sent were intercepted, I should say, by Israelis' defenses, the Iron Dome. Few were seen to be making an impact in Tel Aviv. And you can watch this here. Yep, there were a couple that landed. So, anyway. This is footage of the missile attack, and the missiles landed in the middle of Tel Aviv. And you can see some of the images and stuff here on the screen. But the point is that seven people reported to have injured, mostly lightly. One person was reported to have moderate injuries. Second wave of missiles followed, targeting northern Israel and southern Israel. No injuries were reported off of that. The Army radio reported that a total of 10 missiles had fallen into Israeli territory between the two attack waves. Yeah. So anyway. All of this is because Iran wants to keep its nuclear program going, and they need to stop that. They basically need to stop that. Well, the impact is going to be, there is going to be a bump in some oil prices. So oil on the barrel has jumped more than 7% on a supply risk from this conflict. Crude oil futures jumped about $5 a barrel on Friday after Israel launched the airstrikes. The attack has sparked concerns over the supply outlook from the oil-rich Middle East region. Iran launched missiles back in retaliation. And, so crude oil is going to go up a little bit, and that's stoking some fear among investors that the conflict could spread to disrupt oil supplies in the Middle East. Oil traders viewed Israel's attack as the most significant geopolitical event since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, with crude prices closing at their highest level since March of 2022. So U.S. crude oil gained about $4.94, roughly 7.26%, to close at $72.98 per barrel on Friday. Global benchmark Brent rose $4.87 or 7.02% to settle at 74.23 per barrel. So this is going to make some things go up a little bit, but don't worry, it's going to take a little while for it to percolate throughout the system. So it's not just going to be like automatically everything's going to go up, although, that may happen. But we'll see. All right. Before I move on to my next story, let's talk about 1775 coffee. If you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's a limited number of units available. In these units, you'll be getting a bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. You'll get a smooth medium roast and, of course, the Vitality Mushroom Blend coffee, or the Vitality Mushroom coffee, I should say, which gives you clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip. This is my favorite. My favorite out of the whole thing is a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother that's strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's personal political opinions. You'll also get a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch." $175 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for all of the people who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it actually is. Go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com / that's the question mark key, / studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Go to 1775coffee.com / studio. That's 1775coffee.com / studio and grab your starter kit before they are gone. All right. So this next, the conservatives have been fighting this idea of puberty blockers and gender affirming surgeries and everything else for kids. And there was supposedly a study that was kicked out, and the New York Times published an article talking about how the science behind gender affirming care for minors actually works. Now, here's the thing, okay? The leading proponent of this care in the U.S., her name is Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy. She had been given a $10 million research fund and federal grant, which, let me just put it this way, that's not something that the federal government constitutionally has to do. I mean, that is not a federally mandated responsibility according to the Constitution of the federal government. Now, all of that being said, okay, all of that being said, the attempt was to replicate what has become known as a Dutch study. Now, the Dutch study has become the foundation of what's called gender affirming care. And the Dutch study basically pointed out that by doing this, giving the kids puberty blockers and so on and so forth, that they would just, it would turn their whole life around. This is essentially the argument of the left, the entire setup of the left in all this. And what ended up happening, though, is that while the Dutch study claims that all of this is, they would decrease symptoms of depression, anxiety, trauma symptoms, self-injury, suicidality, increase body esteem, quality of life. I mean, all of these wonderful positive effects. So this individual, Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy, thinking, hey, I'm going to mimic that study. And I'm going to follow these children for 2 years to see if these treatments actually improved their mental health. Okay. Now, this Dutch study somehow said that, all of these puberty blockers improved all of this. And it's those results that are actually the basis over the entire argument about using puberty blockers on kids. Well, there's a bit of a problem, because the actual results of her research showed literally no improvement in the mental health from giving the kids the blockers. None. Now think about that for just a second. They tried to mimic a study that has been used by the left as the basis for all of their transing the kids rhetoric. And what happened? Nothing. In fact, the person who is in charge, Dr. Olson Kennedy, she basically said, I don't want our work to be weaponized. It has to be exactly on point, clear and concise, and it takes time. Now, the thing about it is that there is now a print version of the study finally published online, and they did it very quietly. They did it very quietly. And what it stated was essentially that after 2 years of being on puberty blockers, that those youth showed zero improvement in depression, emotional health, or parent-reported behavior. Nothing. So apparently trying to use, and in fact, the Washington Examiner wrote about it and said that basically tried to, explain it away. But the Washington Examiner wrote about it last week, and it said the study, authored by Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy and colleagues and posted online before journal publication, found that depression symptoms in adolescents diagnosed with gender dysphoria did not change significantly over 24 months of being on puberty blockers. Olson Kennedy and her co-authors argue in the paper that although the patient's mental health remained stable during the study period, it is likely that puberty blockers prevent the deterioration of mental health. Yeah, no, they basically acted as a placebo, folks. They did nothing. They literally did nothing. So, Dr. Kurt Maselli, who is a medical doctor for the advocacy group Do No Harm, which advocates against youth gender transitions, told the Washington Examiner that the research team's conclusion resembles a hypothesis rather than a definitive finding. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, guys, it's just, yeah. There is nothing definitive that basically is showing anywhere that this kind of stuff actually works. In fact, there have been several studies that have been put out that basically say that around 75% of those who have received some sort of gender affirming care do not have any of their symptoms, meaning their suicidality and everything else, alleviated by that gender affirming care. And in fact, many of them actually, if they go through the entire full transition, many of them regret their decision at the end of it. Now, keep in mind, this is focusing on kids for the entire thing. But yeah, this is a bit, again, yeah. Anyway, keep in mind, folks, the truth is coming out. We just have to be just a little more patient. All right, in our final minutes here on the program. This is the long version of my program. Apparently, unfortunately, Trump was delivered a negative result in his appeal to overturn the E. Jean Carroll verdict. So the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has rejected President Donald Trump's bid to overturn that $5 million jury verdict that found him liable for sexual assault and defamation against writer, and let's just call her for what she is, a lunatic, E. Jean Carroll. So E. Jean Carroll apparently apparently on June 13th, which was yesterday, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan had two dissenting judges, and the two judges stated that the panel sanctioned striking departures from what they called legal precedent to justify the irregular judgment in this case. Now, that being said, okay, Trump has only one last recourse, and that essentially is to petition the Supreme Court. There's no automatic right to that appeal. He can petition the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can decide not to take the case, and in which case the court case will stand, unfortunately. So the Second Circuit Court of Appeals is basically just a bunch of dumbasses, honestly. The two judges, Stephen Menashe and Michael Park, dissented from the court's decision not to grant an en banc rehearing. In their written dissent, the judges criticized the panel's ruling, talking about it and basically saying that, yeah, this is an irregular judgment. So, but anyway, yeah, E. Jean Carroll, of course, is very pleased with today's decision, said her attorney, Roberta Kaplan. She added that although President Trump continues to try every possible maneuver to change or to challenge the findings of two separate juries, those efforts have failed. He remains liable for sexual assault and defamation. Anyway, unfortunately, the door is closing on Donald Trump with that, should the Supreme Court not decide to take up the case. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not really holding my breath for that. All right, 3 Chevy submitted a question of the week, but I got to be honest with you, it's going to take me a little bit more in terms of research in order for me to answer it. So I'm going to hold it until next week. So 3 Chevy, I haven't forgotten about you. Unlike a couple of birthday songs, I haven't forgotten about you. I do have it. I just need to do a little bit more research because you have asked a relatively complex question in terms of an answer. Not necessarily that the question itself is complex, but that the answer is going to have to be complex. So anyway. All right, folks, thanks again to the Nun Report for rating the stream. I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate the fact that you guys have stuck with me for quite some time. And I do appreciate all of that. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Oh, don't forget to search up the American Perspective channel for that. What do you mean it won't happen again? Jeez, 3 Chevy, come on now. All right. Don't forget on your way out to hit the thumbs up button or the thumbs down. Either way, it's up to you. Across all of my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. Have a great Sunday. Don't forget, tomorrow is Father's Day, so hopefully your father is still around, and make sure that you get him, at least give him a little call and just say, hey, Dad, what's up? I wish I could. Both of my fathers are gone, so yeah. Anyway, we will see you Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Like I said, have a great rest of your weekend, and good night, everybody.